The goal there would be, if you want to be socially trans, then we acknowledge that you are making that choice, much like a drag queen. We understand that the drag queen doesn't think that he's a woman or anything like that. I think it's relevant, especially when we're talking about children, to understand the difference between just wanting to express yourself and having a mental disorder.
Hey, that's why I think we should talk about this to kids. When they're 5 years old, we should explain to them the difference between gender dysphoria, gender nonconforming behavior, and self-expression. I'm a big fan of that. I love comprehensive sex ed. I want to do what Germany does.
Well,
I think educating children is a great way to do that.
What would you propose okay, so first, what age would you say that we should start this sex education?
I'm a big fan of the German model. So they start as around kindergarten to first grade, and they do it in different levels of understanding. So the first thing,
let's say 5 years
the first old? 5 to 6. First most important thing is understanding consent. If how to express if you there's consent, how to express if someone is negatively touching you or is try not to use a word that'll get you banned. But
RPay is what
RPay. Yeah, there you go. RPay. So teaching children how to identify that is great. One of the reasons why Germany has half the rate of child RPay rates to the US is a large part due to their comprehensive sex ed. If children understand what's happening to them, they have the language to talk about that. And that's like step one. Step two, we're going to start talking about identity, about the different ways people choose to express themselves. If you're a boy, you want to wear a dress, that's perfectly fine. We shouldn't need you to validate one thing or another. At the end of the day, what we really care about is that you're doing well in school. If wearing a dress alleviates any of your stress and you feel happy and that improves your grades, let's focus on that, right? I would like that German model.
So on its face, the way that you're presenting it, I don't necessarily have an issue with it. What I have seen that has led me to have an issue with this area in general is the fact that what I've seen is not it's not descriptive, it's prescriptive. And there is a bias towards one side. And so that's why I think it's important to not push particular ideas on a child until they're of a certain age. Because again, at age 5 and 6, I'm totally down with people teaching. The
biggest thing is how to say no and how to identify something.
The three things specifically that you mentioned: consent, negative touch, and RPay. I think those things, and when it comes to RPay, all they need to know is these are your private parts. Nobody's supposed to touch them. That's all that a 5-year-old needs to know to be able to tell you, hey, this is what happened. Mm-hmm. So if that were the case, and I don't know what they're doing in Germany, maybe they're doing it very differently than America's trying to do it. But I haven't seen that. I have seen a very, very politically charged version of this, where being in the LGBT community is, dare I say, better in the eyes of the children. And the teachers, for that matter.
I think we would have to draw a distinction versus, okay, if they're a minority group and we want to celebrate their differences, do you believe that's encouraging them to be that they're better, or are we just celebrating their uniqueness and their differences?
I think we can celebrate their uniqueness without having to put them in a category. So just because your 3-year-old son likes to wear dresses and play with dolls doesn't mean that you have to teach them about sexuality, and you could just let them play with dolls, wear the dress. That's fine. Yeah.
And then when they're 7 and they're being picked on by other kids for wearing dresses or for playing dolls.
Okay, well then we determine, okay, are you wearing this dress because you thought it would be cool and now it's not cool so you don't want it anymore? Or are you all along this child should be in with a trusted, objective therapist who's not there specifically to tell the kid what they want to hear, which is what gender affirming therapy is.
So I think we need to draw another distinction here. If affirming someone and saying you are valid for wearing a dress, you're valid for expressing that, that's generally what a child wants to hear. If that alleviates their discomfort and prevents them from ever going onto the path where they would need to hormonally or medically or surgically transition, is that not net beneficial if we're affirming that?
Yeah, I just said that.
Okay, so you're okay with affirmations if they're not harmful?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just
So
think that the idea the no, I mean you have to be 18 to get a tattoo. I mean,
yeah,
16 with a parent, parents.
18 in
signature.
Texas. They're strict about that in Texas.
And that makes sense. That makes sense.